how does it sit with you when you hear the national conversation that the officials are in the Chiefs' pocket and that they are making calls on Mahomes or for Mahomes that they would not call for other quarterbacks? How does that sit with you when you hear that?
Well, it doesn't resonate with me at all. And because not only was I head of the department for 12 years, but I was actually on the field for a couple years. And the fact that you're looking out for anyone, any team, any individual is a myth. It is an absolute myth. You don't have time to react and say, this is Goff. I'm not going to call this because it's Goff. This is Mahomes. I'm got to call this because it's Mahomes. This is Rice. I remember when I got hired by the NFL, my dad's first thing he said to me was, don't screw the 49ers. and I said, Dad, how am I going to screw the 49ers? He said, well, if Rice gets them, make sure it's a catch on the sideline. And I'm like, Dad, it is literally boom, boom. And you don't have time. Mm-hmm. You don't have time to process. It's like 1/26th of a second. You have to see a flash and then make a determination. And you don't have time. And the other thing is, you don't want to get fired. You just want to be right. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's the other myth, the makeup call. A makeup call. So even if I knew I was wrong with the call I made, if I make another bad one to make up for the other team, I'm done. I mean, I'm probably out of playoff contentions with 2 mistakes in one game. So it doesn't bother me because those people that say that don't know a damn thing about officiating. And until you actually put the uniform on and until you have to make those quick judgments, and that includes people in the media who can be quick to criticize. If you haven't done it and you don't recognize how hard it is in real time and how easy it is in super slow motion, then get out of my train, get off my train. I mean, period. That's why. Does it anger me? No, I don't think it really angers me. It just kind of validates my point that people don't understand how difficult it is.
Well, that's why I wanted to start with this conversation, because our conversation this way, because that's the national conversation coming out of Chiefs and Texans, coming off of 2 calls. One in which Mahomes gets to stay on the field because Will Anderson is called for roughing, and another one where Mahomes is, as Troy Aikman described it, playing games with the defense by staying in bounds and then moving back into the field to slide. 2 Texans collide with each other, and they're called for colliding into each other, essentially. Should those penalties have been called, in your estimation?
No, I don't think they should have been. I mean, I look at the game and I judge things a little bit differently, and it probably wouldn't make sense to anybody. But I used to grade officials, so I would grade them.
Right.
And if they made a call they shouldn't have made, you get what's called an incorrect call, which is very difficult. And then, I look at things and say no calls. That's when you pass on something. And if you pass on something that you should have called, then you get what's called a no call. Both of those, in my opinion, should have been passed on. I understand why they were called, because we are in a time of protection of quarterbacks and pretty much everybody. But when the league came out and said they defended them, right? They did say they defended both calls. That doesn't mean they wanted them called.
So then they're defending it just because why? I mean,
they defend it because, you and I went through this thing. I mean, I probably bent over backwards because they were my people to defend it. And technically, it could be a foul. But in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, while I see it's there is some contact, high contact on the roughing the passer one. Was it like forcible? No, it really wasn't forcible enough. I see why it was called. It's certainly not, a phantom. And in the other one, maybe a little contact, but it's not. Listen, if you were, in my opinion,
yes.
If I was sitting with Walt Anderson and he and I were having a beer, if he and I were having a vodka,
nice.
Actually, I think he would say to me, we actually would have preferred, even though technically it's a foul, that it wasn't called.
Well, and I understand why the league wants to, make sure that their referees are defended. I understand that. But if they don't want the penalties to be called, for them to come out and say they should have been called really undercuts the relationship with fans, to be straight up with you. And that then calls into question the next time these calls happen again, that, the league must want them called. Yeah. And the league behind the scenes doesn't. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.